Good day. Today I will discuss the lesson 6 in business marketing, business markets, and business buyer behavior. In this chapter, we'll do the same for business customers, those that are buy goods and services for use in producing their own products and services or for resale to others. As when selling to final buyers, firms marketing to businesses must engage business customers and build profitable relationship with them by creating superior value customer. The learning outcomes of this lesson are as follows. Define the business market and explain how business market differ from the consumer market. Identify the major factors that influence business buyer behavior. List and define the steps in business buying decision process. And compare the institutional and government markets and explain how institutional and government buyers make their buying decision. Business markets is a huge. In fact, business markets involve for far more dollars and items than do consumer markets. Business markets are similar to consumer market. Both involve people who consume buying roles and make purchase decisions to satisfy needs. However, business markets differ in many ways from consumer markets. The main differences are in the market structure and demand, the nature of buying unit, and the types of decision and the decision process involved. The process of business markets of selling your product and services to other businesses where those products and services will either be used as raw materials for manufacturing of other products, or those businesses buy the products or services and resell them. An example of a business market is selling wood to a company to use in creating its product. The business market consists of four major categories of customer: producer, reseller, government, and institutions. Market structure and demand involve much more volume in terms of dollars and items than do customer markets. Finally, the demand for business goods and services tends to be more volatile and fluctuating than the demand for consumer goods and services. Economic market structure can be grouped into four categories: perfect competition, monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and monopoly. Derived demand is a factor of production or intermediate good that occurs as a result of a demand for another intermediate or final good. In essence, the demand for, say, a factor of production by a firm is dependent on the demand by consumer for the product produced by the firm. Business buyer behavior. This is the model of business buyer behavior: environmental, organizational, interpersonal, and individual. In environmental, economic development, supply condition, technological change, political and regulatory developments, competitive developments, and culture and customs. Organizational, objectives, policies, procedures, organizational structures, and systems. In interpersonal, authority, status, empathy, and persuasivity. Individual, age, income, education, job position, personality, and risk attitude. The buying center includes all members of organization who play any of five roles in purchase decision process. One is users. The users are members of organizations who will use the product or services. In many cases, users initiate the buying proposal and help define product specification. Influencers often help define specification and also provide information for evaluating alternatives. Technical personnel, we are particularly important influencers. Buyers have formal authority to select the supplier and arrange them for purchase. Buyer can help shape product specification, but their major role is selecting vendors and negotiating. In more complex purchases, buyers might include high-level officers participating in negotiations. Deciders have formal or informal power to select or approve the final suppliers. In routine buying, the buyers are often the deciders or at least the approvers. And lastly, the gatekeepers control the flow of information to others. For example, purchasing agents often have authority to prevent salesperson from seeing users or deciders. Other gatekeepers include technical personnel and even personal secretary. This is the business buying process: recognition, problem recognition, general need description, product specification, supplier search, proposal solicitation, supplier selection, order routine specification, and the performance review. When we say problem recognition, the buying process begins when someone in the company recognizes a problem or a need that can be met for acquiring a specific product or services. Problem recognition can result from internal or external stimuli. Internally, the company may decide to launch a new product that requires a new production equipment and materials. Or a machine may break down and need new parts. Perhaps a purchasing manager is unhappy with the current supplier's product quality, service, or prices. Externally, the buyer may get some new ideas at a trade show or an ad, or receive a call from a salesperson who offers a better product or a lower price. In general need description, having recognized a need, the buyer next prepares a need description that describes the characteristic and quantity of needed items. For standard items, this process presents few problems. For complex items, however, the buyer may need to work with others, engineers, users, consultants, to define the item. The team may want to rank the importance of reliability, durability, price, and other attributes desired in the item. In this space, the alert business marketer can help the buyers define their needs and provide information about the value of different product characteristics. When we say product specification, the buying organization next develops the item technical product specification, often with the help of value analysis engineering team. Product value analysis is an approach to cost reduction in which components are studied carefully to determine if they can be redesigned, standardized, or made by less costly methods of production. The team decides on the best product characteristic and specifies them accordingly. Sellers too can use value analysis as a tool to help secure a new account. By showing buyers a better way to make an object, outside seller can turn straight rebuy situation into a new situation that can take a chance to obtain a new business. When we say supplier search, the buyer now conducts a supplier search to find the best vendors. The buyer can compile a small list of qualified suppliers by reviewing and trade directories, doing online searches, or phoning other companies for recommendation. Today, more and more companies are turning to the internet to find suppliers. For marketers, this has leveled the playing field. The internet gives smaller suppliers many of some advantages as larger competitors. When we say proposal solicitation, in proposal solicitation stage of the business buying process, the buyer invites qualified suppliers to submit proposals. In response, some supplier will refer the buyer to its website or promotional materials or send a salesperson to call on the prospect. However, when the item is complex or expensive, the buyer will usually require detailed written proposal or formal presentation from each potential supplier. Business marketer must be skilled in researching, writing, and presenting proposal in response to buyer proposal solicitation. Proposal should be marketing documents that not just technical documents. Presentation should inspire confidence and should make the marketer's company stand out from the competition. In supplier selection, the members of the buying center now review the proposal and select a supplier or suppliers. During supplier selection, the buying center often will draw up a list of desired supplier attributes and their relative importance. Such attributes include the product and service quality, reputation, on-time delivery, ethical corporate behavior, honest communication, and competitive prices. The members of the buying center will rate suppliers against these attributes and identify the best suppliers. In order routine specification, the buyer now prepares an order routine specification. It includes the final order with the chosen supplier or suppliers and lists items such as technical specification, quality needed, expected delivery time, return policies and warranties. In the case of maintenance, repair, operating items, buyers may use blanket contracts rather than periodic purchase order. The blanket contract creates a long-term relationship in which the supplier promises to resupply the buyer as needed as agreed prices for a set time period. Performance review. In this stage, the buyer reviews supplier's performance. The buyer may contact user and ask them to rate their satisfaction. The performance review may lead the buyer to continue, modify, or drop the arrangement. The seller's job is to monitor the same factors used by the buyer to make sure that the seller is giving the expected satisfaction. So far, our discussion for organizational buying has focused largely on the buying behavior of business buyers. Much of this discussion also applies to buying practices of institutional and government organizations. However, these two non-business markets have additional characteristics and needs. In this final section, we address the special feature of institutional and government markets. Institutional market consists of school, hospital, nursing homes, prisons, and other institutions that provide goods and services to people in their care. Institutions differ from one another in their sponsor and objectives. That's all for our lesson 6. We go for our lesson 7, which is the customer-driven marketing strategy. In this chapter, we'll look further into key customer-driven marketing strategy decision, dividing up a market into meaningful customer groups, choosing which customer groups to serve, creating market offering that best serve targeting customers, and positioning the offering in mind of consumers. In this lesson, the learning outcomes are as follows. Define the major steps in defining the customer-driven marketing strategy. Market segmentation, targeting, differentiation, and positioning. List and discuss the major bases for segmenting consumer and business markets. Explain how companies identify attracted market segments and choose a market targeting strategy. And discuss how companies differentiate and position their product for maximum competitive advantage. Market segmentation involves dividing a market into smaller segments or buyer which distinct needs, characteristics, or behavior that might require separate marketing strategy or mixes. The company identifies different ways to segment the market and develop profiles of the resulting the market segments. Buyers in any market differ their wants, resources, location, buying attitude, and buying practices. Through market segmentation, companies divide large market into smaller segments that can be reached more efficiently and effectively with products and services that match their unique needs. In this section, we discuss the four important segmentation topics: segmentation consumer market, segmenting business market, segmenting international market, and requirements for effective segmentation. Target marketing consists of evaluating each market segment's attractiveness and selecting one more market segments to enter. In the final two steps, the company decides on a value proposition, how it will create value for target customer. Market targeting is also differentiation. It involves actual differentiating the firm's value offering to create superior customer value. Positioning consists of arranging for a market offering to occupy a clear, distinctive, and desirable place relative to competing products in the minds of target consumers. Segmentation variables. Major segmentation variables for customer markets are as follows: geographic, demographic, psychographic, and behavioral. In geographic, nations, regions, state, countries, cities, neighborhood, population, density. In demographic, age, life cycle stage, gender, income, occupation, education, religion, and generation. Psychographic is a social class, lifestyle, and personality. When we say behavioral, it is occasions, benefits, user status, usage rate, and loyalty status. There are requirements for effective segmentation. One is measurable. The size, purchasing powers, and profiles of the segments can be measured. Accessible. The market segments can be effectively reached and served. Substantial. The market segments are large or profitable enough to serve. A segment should be a largest possible group worth pursuing with a tailored marketing program. It will not pay, for example, for an automobile manufacturer to develop cars especially for people whose height is greater than 7 feet. Differentiable. The segments are conceptually distinguishable and respond differently to different marketing mix elements and programs. If men and women respond similarly to marketing effort or for soft drinks, they do not constitute separate segments. And lastly, actionable. Effective programs can be designed for attracting and serving the segments. For example, although one small airline identified 7 market segments. In evaluating market segments are as follows: undifferentiated marketing, differentiated marketing, concentrated marketing, and macro marketing. In undifferentiated marketing, using this strategy, a firm might decide to ignore market segment differences and target the whole market with one offer. Such a strategy focuses on what is common in the needs of consumer rather than on what is different. When we say differentiated marketing, a firm decides to target several market segments and design separate offers for each. When we say concentrated marketing, instead of going after a small share of large market, a firm goes after a large share of one or a few smaller segments or niches. And lastly, macro marketing. is tailoring product or marketing programs to the needs and wants of specific individuals and local consumer segments. It includes local marketing and individual marketing. Differentiation and positioning. Some firms find it easy to choose a differentiation and positioning strategy. For example, a firm well known for quality in certain segments will go after this position in a new segment if there are enough buyers seeking quality. But in many cases, two or more firms will go after the same position. Then each will have to find other ways to set itself apart. Each firm must differentiate its offer by building a unique bundle or of benefits that appeals to substantial group within the segment. There are five winning value proposition. More for the same for less, less for much less, and more for less. When we say more for more, positioning involves providing the most upscale product or service and charging a higher price to cover the higher cost. A more for more market offering not only offers a high quality, it is also give prestige to the buyer, and it is a symbolized status. More for the same, a company can attack a competitor's value proposition by positioning its brand as offering more for the same price. The same for less, offering the same for less can be powerful value proposition. Everyone likes a good deal. Less for much, less. A market almost always exists for products that offer less and therefore cost less. And lastly, more for less. Of course, the winning value proposition will be to offer more for less. Many companies claim to do this. And that's all for our lesson 7. Thank you. Good day. Today I will discuss the lesson 6 in business marketing, business markets, and business buyer behavior. In this chapter, we'll do the same for business customers, those that are buy goods